All right, these are the lecture notes for Chapter 3, Identifying Target Audiences. Let's talk about the importance of targeting in social media marketing. So what is it exactly? Well, if you were to answer that question as getting the right message to the right person, you'd be partially correct. It's a term that we've kind of used in more traditional media, in TV and in radio, even in certain types of print media. And that's a very important sort of thing. But there's more to it when we're talking about the digital landscape. The Content Marketing Institute identifies the challenge for digital marketers as being to get that right person to get to the right content at the right place, at the right time, in the right format, in the right language, on the right device. So there's a lot of factors that are going into play. It's not just as simple as that question, what's your message and who's your audience? While that's still the cornerstone of what we're talking about in terms of communications, there's a lot of factors that go along to it when we're talking about the social media landscape of making sure that you are using the tools, that you are using the platforms in the best possible way you can for the particular audience that you're trying to reach. So, the targeting process in social media marketing. The most common characteristics marketers use to identify and profile target markets are demographics, geographics, and lifestyles or psychographics. So psychographics, I should say, is a much more detailed version of demographics in that we're not just looking at the typical delineators like age or sex or location, like we are with geographics, but we're also looking at much more niche sorts of categories in terms of different lifestyles, different interests, different psychologies, beliefs, attitudes, values, all that sort of thing. So it gets into much more detail than just the demographics. What we're also looking at on top of all of that is behavioral data. Behavioral data, what people are doing or what they may tell marketing research that they are doing, has always been part of the process, but has become more valuable now as a result of the actual behaviors provided by digital marketing, which is a distinction because in the past, when we've used behavioral data in traditional media, we've had to rely on what people have told us are their different behaviors and values and thoughts and things like that. In the case of online media, because we can track the different behaviors of people online, we can see in more detail and with more accuracy what is really going on. In digital marketing, it is possible to fine-tune targeting beyond the entire market segment to a small target audience, then behaviorally defined that will be especially receptive to a particular promotional message. So we're talking about here very much tailor-fitting what it is that we're trying to say to a rather tailor-fit sort of audience, getting very specific and getting very detailed. Now, this graphic here that's in your textbook, Figure 3.1, talks about the steps in targeting social media marketing campaigns. And some of this has to do with the idea of the persona. The persona brings life to the bare bones of audience statistics. So we're taking a look at taking the information that we've been gathering, everything from the demographics to the geographics to the psychographics to the behavioral data, using all that information to create a certain type of person, what we're calling the persona. and using that as a basis to help us to determine how to shape the messages that we are going to create for those personas online. Because the goal is to optimize the postings on each social channel so that they will be best attended to by the target audience. So we want to make sure that the things that we are saying are going to mean something to those that we're trying to reach out to in a very intentional and specific sort of way. Posts themselves need to be configured to meet the criteria of the specific platform in order to achieve prominence on it. There's going to be different ways, not just in how you're conveying the message to your target audience, but the platform itself that you're using may lend itself to presenting a message in a particular way that's going to make it stand out more, make it more noticeable to the people that you're trying to reach out to. In some cases, there's also a need to optimize posts for search engine visibility. And that's going to be different from platform to platform. Big data. Big data is the massive amount of data that is available from the digital clickstream. The definition has broadened to include data from audio and video files. So basically, any sort of information that is out there is going to be information that is collected and categorized and able to be sorted through. And that whole mess of information is what we think of as big data. Marketers do need to understand the basic ways of analyzing big data and the new options it makes available in disciplines from supply chain management to audience targeting. So the information that is out there is super valuable, and it's valuable in all different types of business planning and commerce and traffic and that sort of thing, as it is with the social media marketing strategies. Technologies like pattern recognition, data visualization, community recognition, and link prediction within social networks, social influence analysis, and machine learning techniques like neutral networking, all of that is needed when it comes to taking what's available, massaging that information, and understanding that information so that we can make it work for us to our advantage with the people that we're trying to reach out to and the message we're trying to convey. There are many ways marketers can use this wealth of data and the insights it provides to target specific audiences. And here's several of those ways. First off, behavioral targeting, which is based on purchase behavior or behaviors that convey intent. There's connection targeting based on the type of connection to your brand page. So the Facebook fan that follows you, you have a connection with that person. Whenever someone shares your content with someone else, there's a connection that's made there from the person that shared it and to the person that it's being shared to. Interest targeting based on self-reported interests and page-related behaviors, things like search. Whenever you type something into a search engine, data is being collected on what it is that you've searched. Data is being collected on which item you choose to click on that responds to that search. All of that is gathered. Lookalike targeting that identifies people like the ones who have been successful targets in the past. So people that fit certain criteria and different similarities, that's going to be considered. Custom targeting that allows the marketer to upload his own data, kind of like an email list. Location targeting based on the location provided in the user's profile or by geo-targeting data, which determines the user's current location. When you check into a business on Facebook, for example, when you give a review of a business on Yelp, that sort of stuff is going to be collected. Two important warnings. First off, not all platforms offer all the types of targeting listed. It's going to be different in how it works from platform to platform to platform. And the terms they use, the criteria for sorting, the numbers that are used to break up that data, that's all going to be different from platform to platform as well. Other thing to keep in mind, advertisers usually receive new targeting options first. So those that are paying for different services are the ones that are going to receive priority when it comes to getting that information. Target audience descriptions become much richer than the ones for traditional media. If you take a look in your textbook, you'll see some very specific examples from the various types of platforms where you can get some much detailed information about your various demographics that you're looking for and certain niches of that demographic. That become very valuable for us for that specific targeting of a particular message. Okay, so how do we create and develop these personas that we're looking to target? Well, one way is by looking at the persona development cycle. This is a 3-step sort of project. It contains these steps. First off, identifying persona roles, listing all relevant personas by their particular role. So kind of who they are, what they do. Second, listing the needs and situational triggers from personas' perspectives, defining concerns, symptoms, problems, looking past the who and what into more of the how and why of our people that we're looking at. And then thirdly, creating messaging objectives suited to each persona's needs, understanding who our audience is, and based on that, delivering the message to them in the way that they can receive it and meeting them where they're at. Once a social media marketer knows what information a buyer will need before making a purchase, it is possible to develop a social media strategy that provides a buyer with the relevant information, making the individual more likely to buy the product. Trying to appeal to your target audience on a certain psychological and emotional sort of level, using your information and sharing it with them in a way that connects with them personally can be very effective in reaching your successful outcome. Later, as feedback arrives, it'll be possible to adjust these messaging objectives based on new information about the personas. So as a result of that, like the social media planning cycle, persona development is also a very fluid process that should be constantly evolving. So it's not something where you set it and forget it. Just as we're continually listening and assessing and taking action steps in the social media marketing cycle, we're doing the same thing as we are looking at the particular personas of those that we are trying to reach out to. A lot of the processes are very similar. And if nothing else, it's similar in the fact that things are continually changing, whether it be long-term beliefs, attitudes, values, whether it's something that's currently in style or is a fad or is just the current hot thing. Those things change from time to time to time, and those things can change rather quickly depending on the persona that we're trying to reach. So it's something that needs to be kept up with in a rather intensive sort of way. The Forrester Social Technographics ladder. The Social Technographics profile uses demographics such as age, location, and gender to group social media users into personas based on their social media activities. And then we go into Technographics. Technographics is the methodology by which Forrester surveys customers similar to demographics and psychographics, but restricted to technology behaviors. So how that stuff plays out in the online space and how people use technology is what's being concentrated on here. The social technographics profile consists of the following personas. I have them listed here in your notes, but if you want a graphical representation, look in your textbook, and it breaks it down real nicely for you. First persona we'll talk about is creators. Creators develop blogs, articles, videos, music, images, and art. They're the ones that actually provide the content. Conversationalists participate in group discussions, engage in conversations on Twitter, and update their statuses on Facebook and LinkedIn. They're the ones that are doing a lot of the communicating with the public at large and with fans in particular. Critics evaluate and comment on content, post product ratings and reviews, comment on blogs, and participate in communities in the discussion forums of various communities is how that should read. So those that have an opinion and are willing to share that and make their point of view known. Collectors upload and save favorites on bookmarking sites, find content, tagged photos, subscribe to RSS feeds, and perform the valuable functions of helping to organize and categorize content on the social web. So if you're Pinterest is a great example of this, where you can keep all sorts of pins within a certain type of category. Collections can help in that way. If you build a photo album on Facebook, it's a very similar sort of idea. Or if you're just one that aggregates a lot of information and you share it on your social media sites, you're a collector as well. Joiners interact on social networks. They're not necessarily creating or providing content. They're just part of the conversation. Spectators consume the content that others produce. And then there are those that are not involved in social media at all, and those are the ones that are called the inactives. The social technographics ladder not only reveals what people are doing on the social web, but perhaps just as important, where they are doing it. And by where, we're talking about which particular social media platforms that they are using. So it's gathering information on what your audience is up to and where you can find them in the online social media space. Completing the media plan for each audience segment. Part of the social media marketing media plan is to schedule each post on each platform. Sometimes the messages will need to be repurposed for various platforms. The way that you present information on Facebook will be different than how you present it on Twitter or on Instagram or on any other platform that you're using, because the platforms themselves lend themselves to have content presented in a certain way. Because of that, they're also going to attract different types of audiences. So while you may have one particular thing that you're wanting to talk about, it might be enough just to provide a link to a web page on Twitter, for example. Whereas on Facebook, you may have a description on what the link is about. Whereas on Instagram, you'll have some sort of a graphic that explains things in better detail. Using your information and custom tailoring it to the particular platform you're using, and by extension, tailoring it to the particular users on that platform. Optimizing posts and post timing. Well, we need to answer a question here. What do we mean by optimizing? Most of the time when we talk about optimizing online, we tend to think about it in terms of SEO. SEO stands for search engine optimization. So trying to get a prominent place on the various search engine sites like Google, Bing, Yahoo, and all the others. It is the process of getting traffic from free, organic, editorial, or natural search results on search engines. So you're creating your content in such a way that you're using certain words and phrasing in order to have the search engines be able to see that and capture what it is you're trying to say, and hopefully put you near the top of the search engine results page. Now, while the process is different in social media marketing, the goal is the same: to make everything from a user's profiles to her blog posts to her Pinterest pins as visible as possible to everyone on the platform, and sometimes also in search engine rankings themselves. So, as you are creating content, you want to make it so that it is easy to find, easy to search for, easy to recognize, and captures people's attention. How do we optimize social content? Well, the bad news is that every platform is different when it comes to optimization. Some platforms may not necessarily show up easily in online searches. Others may provide search platforms within themselves. Others do use search engine sites that allow you to be able to see what's going on particular pages. So you kind of have to know the platform itself and what works best to be able to find your content on that platform. The good news is that there's many publishers on the web who provide information on this subject. And this is something that is also continually changing as these different platforms develop and add more features and change the way their interface works. The ways to be able to optimize the content is also going to change, and it's something that you're going to need to keep abreast of if it's something that you are working on a regular basis. The book offers various platform examples on certain specifics on what tends to work on those various platforms, the best times of day to post, the best ways to present that content. And these are generalizations that the book offers depending on the type of industry that you're involved in and the content that you're providing, the type of audience that you're trying to reach out to. There may be differences in the times and the places and the ways that you present that content that is going to maximize your potential for being able to reach the particular audience that you want to find.